You are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxshall, in which I chronicle my life and attempts to become a professional writer by, doing some writing daily, hopefully. Hello, it is Friday the 28th of June. Welcome to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. It's very late. I'm recording this at 11 o'clock because basically I intended to record it about 3 hours ago and got caught up building a model Lego radio set, which I absolutely adore. It's absolutely lovely. What I particularly like about it is you can actually hide your phone in it, so play radio on your phone, and then actually it looks like an actual radio. I'm about to lift it up and show you, but of course this is an audio podcast, not a video podcast. What I'm going to talk about briefly today, and I was going to do some writing today, but I didn't get around to it because I built some Lego instead. What I'm going to talk about today is what I need to do next with Empress of the Tress. So as you know, or will do if you've been listening to this, I've only got 2 more chapters to edit before I get to the point where I need to write some new material. That's been a long time coming. There are 30 chapters that I've edited now in the book. There are 32 that have been written. Chapter 33 is partially written, and I'm not going to edit that one. I'll read through it so I'm familiar with what's happened, but I'm not going to edit it because basically I'm going to now move on to my write edit model. So I shall write the rest of chapter 33 and edit the whole chapter. But it's an interesting one because I've got to the point where I've got a bit of a dilemma on my hands. Well, it's not a dilemma, I've got a decision to make because the characters all arrive at the place in the Cairngorms that will have been referred to in the story by now, and they've got to do something clever. They've got to get in there, and there's something very specific they have to do, but I can't work out exactly how they're going to do it. So there's one possibility. Excuse the cough. I could do that literal all guns blazing thing, but I don't really want to do that because I want my characters up there to find out what's going. The good guys need to find out what the bad guys have been up to. And if they go in all guns blazing, then that's clearly not going to happen. So I've got to think of something slightly cleverer to bring the story out, and that's going to require, or to get everybody, all the pieces into the place for the end of the book, basically. And that's going to be a little more complicated than I thought because, if I'm honest, my plan is very woolly, and it doesn't say how this needs to happen. So I've got a couple of ideas, and if it elongates the story a little bit, I'm not too worried about that. It's kind of in for a penny, in for a pound now. This is the longest thing I've ever written anyway. It's going to be about twice the length of the books I normally write, and that's absolutely fine. It is a bigger story. It's it was always planned to be slightly bigger, and I just basically thought, well, I'm going to write the story I want to tell, and it is as long as it ends up being. But yeah, so I'm kind of at the end game now. So once my main characters have managed to get into this facility and find out the information they want, there's a few key things that need to happen. So Mackenzie needs to he's not going to die, but he needs to get to the verge of death, to the point where they can't tell him something they need to tell him. And that has a massive, massive impact because it means the only tree he can safely be put in to save himself is the one that's disconnected from the network. The only problem with that is because Mr. Oakley has been removed from the network, or has been told he can't be saved anymore by Lord Farnborough, this tree is the only one he can survive in as well. So he's going to have to basically give up his only chance of survival for Mackenzie. And obviously he is going to do that because he feels very passionate. He's at one point told that he has to kill Mackenzie, and he risks his own life to not do that. So once I've reached that part of the story, then there is going to be the general election, the Red Victor Party led by names escape me of the main character, but the Red Victor Party win, which means you get the new Prime Minister, who's the bad guy, Carl Tucker. And Carl Tucker issues immediate orders to the army who are protecting Ronnie that they are to execute her. They don't. Well, they try to, but one of her, basically they were ordered in the past that if they were told, if when the government changed, they are ordered to kill Ronnie, they are not to do it. They've got to stick with their original orders and protect her. But Barrera, one of the soldiers, is quite kind of career-minded, and he thinks, well, if I follow my original orders, I'm making myself an outlaw. So he decides to kill Ronnie. He decides he's going to have to take Vickers out as well, because he knows Vickers will stand by her. Obviously he fails, and I think he's probably going to get killed by probably Vickers, realistically. So you've then got this facility controlled by the good guys. The bad guys need it. So they do a final assault on it, in which, and it is going to be basically a battle, which is going to be quite interesting. I'm going to have to work out exactly how it pans out. And then I've got another chapter, which once the main part of the story is over, once the trees stop breathing and humanity dies, I'm going to have a chapter that I'm amusingly referring to as the chapter of death. And that is all the characters we've met that aren't going to survive get their own little farewell scene. Some of them lie down quietly together and just die as the oxygen runs out. There's a suicide, there's a murder, there's a few bits and pieces going on in that chapter. And then that leaves me effectively with the epilogue. And I've even kind of toyed with the idea of having the final battle being after that, so a lot of the soldiers are on oxygen when they come up and try to do this thing, but they fail. And then that will only leave me with the epilogue to write. And the epilogue, the only real decision I've got to make is who survives, who makes it into the new world, into the world that the trees have allowed some humans to survive in. But yeah, so lots and lots of work to do. So I was hoping maybe to get the first draft finished by the end of July. Probably not going to happen. I mean, I'll try, but I'd rather tell the story I need to tell. So yeah, quite a lot to do, quite a lot to decide. I'll update you on the decisions I make and how the writing goes quite soon. But Lego is more fun, isn't it, everybody? Hey, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxall. Thank you for tuning in to my random ramblings, and if you'd like to know more about me or my projects, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W. Thank you for listening.